Hello, I'm Dave Grossi. They've been called America's greatest generation. Young men, some as young as 15, who put aside the most formative years of their life to help defend freedom during World War II. Years that should have been spent going to baseball games, attending college, going out on dates, but instead they willingly put their lives on hold, put on a uniform, left their cities and towns for parts unknown, in essence saved America from the tyranny that was spreading across Europe and that had indeed come home on December 7th, 1941. This is their story. The Department of Veterans Affairs estimates that there are fewer than 1 million World War II vets still alive out of the 16 million that served during the war. And the VA also estimates that well over 400 die every day, and that by 2036 there will be no World War II vets left. You're going to meet some of these incredible people now. Listen as Staff Sergeant Bill Pace, a Purple Heart recipient, recalls his story about how he was forced to bail out of a B-17 bomber 5 miles up over Germany when his plane was struck, and then how he spent the last few months of the war in 2 POW camps in Germany. And Army PFC Lloyd Roush, who helped liberate the infamous Dachau concentration camp, and Staff Sergeant Mario Grossi, who helped liberate the notorious Woblin concentration camp. They'll describe for you the horrors, the sights, the smells that only a veteran who's been there and done that can describe. Army hero Tech Sergeant George West, recipient of the Silver Star for Gallantry, and he'll relate how his citation calls what he became a one-man patrol when his unit was almost wiped out in Germany. You'll be spellbound by Navy veteran Vic Bucket, one of only a handful of survivors of the USS Indianapolis that was torpedoed by a Japanese sub during a top-secret mission, delivering the components of the atomic bomb that helped end the war in Japan. He'll describe for you his experiences during his struggle for survival over 4 days in shark-infested waters, watching as over 600 of his crewmates drowned or were eaten alive by sharks when their ship's distress signals were ignored. Their stories will undoubtedly invoke many emotions: pride, sorrow, even anger. But as our film progresses, I'm convinced that those emotions will compel you to watch and listen. For several of these vets, it's the very first time they've related their wartime experiences, but they've all agreed to be part of this most important historical and educational project. Hear now as these heroes tell their stories of their years spent in Europe, the Pacific, or in critical duties stateside. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bonita Springs Historical Society is proud to present Bonita's Greatest Generation in their own words.
I'm 97 years old next week. I feel great. I'm in great shape physically, mentally, I hope. And life has been nothing but great for me. First thing that comes to mind was the Coconut Grove fire in Boston. That was a nightclub that had about 400 people dining and drinking, and the fire killed most of them because the exit was jammed with people trying to get out. And there were notables there like Buck Jones, the movie actor, a cowboy actor. That brought to memory, and then when Pearl Harbor actually happened, that particular morning we were in church, and they made an unusual announcement relative to the condition there. And the fact that we were going to be at war was devastating. At that particular time, we had one of the greatest presidents that we'll ever have. Took us out of so many crises that there was admiration for Roosevelt all over the world. He had a couple of partners in Stalin from Russia, and in England, Churchill. And between those three men, all the way through the war, everything was conducted equally and well done. And the results, of course, we understand that we finally got the A-bomb. We eliminated Japan, eliminated Hitler and Germany. We formed that type of a country that we became the strongest nation in the world. Well, you know, everyone probably was trying to help one way or another. At the particular time, I had gotten married and I was working for General Electric Corporation, and I was in a particular plant that was providing parts for our bombers at the time, and I felt as though I was contributing to a certain extent. With the marriage having been done 6 months before, I decided it was time to do my job, and I entered the draft. I was sent to Fort Knox, Kentucky. At that particular time, I took the Air Force examinations and I failed slightly, so I entered the Armored Force. At that particular time, the Armored Force had a 22-week basic training. We conducted that, and during the end of the training, I did so well, I found myself appointed to cadre, and we were teaching driving Sherman tanks. After I had the opportunity of taking the Air Force exams again, I found that I got a better grade, passed. I went to Jefferson Barracks in Missouri. From there, I went to the University of Cincinnati for a 5-month college course relative to the program. And just before we went into flight training, that was the particular time that General Arnold had the opportunity of sensing that he no longer needed 5,000 additional pilots, and we were sent back to our regular service. I happened to be sent back to Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, to the Signal Corps. And all of a sudden, instead of driving a tank or flying a fighter jet, I found myself answering telephones and making telephone calls, climbing telephone poles, installing telephone poles, and they finally picked me out and put me in a platoon of people going overseas to replace a particular squadron out there. So what we did then, we landed in Liverpool, England. We traveled from Liverpool across the water to Le Havre, France. We located in a small city called Le Ventreville, and from that particular point, we went to Le Havre. We were experiencing bombing at the time, devastation of a city of Le Havre, and then transferred to Antwerp, Belgium. There is where the war started for me, because we were experiencing the dropping of the buzz bombs. Hitler at the time had a series of buzz bombs that he was dropping on the city of Antwerp and the docks, eliminating the ships from bringing supplies in for the troops. So the result for that was the buzz bomb would fly over and it would be going put, 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 and all of a sudden the gasoline would give out and the bombs would drop to wherever the airplane was dropping to. Consequently, bang, bang, bang at different places, waking you up, until Hitler then developed the V2 rocket. That particular devastating rocket hit theaters filled with people. I was in church on a Sunday morning. The bomb hit close by all of a sudden half the church fell into us. That was my experience with the buzz bomb and the V-2 rocket. What happened? The war was still going on against Japan. We had the A-bomb on our route to Japan to fight the battle in one of the other islands. The ship turned around, landed in Fort Jenks, New Jersey. At that particular time, it was 1936, January, and I was released from the service. Having worked for 6 months for GE, unfortunately, the first week that I was discharged, they went on strike. Consequently, I spent the next 6 months looking for employment. I did receive $30 a month from Uncle for a 6-month period of time. Since then, fortunately, I never had to collect a penny until I turned my Social Security age. However, life was good to me because General Electric went back to work. A company that built service grinders knew that I had operated one for a 6-month period of time. They sold a machine to a firm that hired me. I stayed there 5 years. I went into my own business of machine shop. I spent 30 years in that business. I had 5 children, 44 years of marriage, death of my first wife, a period of 5 years doing nothing but helping people, putting on reviews for 10 years for the city or town at that time of Bonita Springs. I think of them as names because I slept with some of the boys in cots in Gonfreville, France, until we were moved to. We camped out with the raining storms and with the forestry under us and a cover over so we wouldn't get wet. We dined with, oh God, what we went through. But this country can't be beat. It's the greatest place in the world. You do for the sake of memory of people who you lost, friends who you lost. And I have a feeling for wounded veterans. They paid, they're still paying, and luckily they're still living. But I don't think that we can do enough for a wounded veteran. Couldn't believe that aircraft that my son was flying, that particular aircraft is going into the building. The collision for those people that were in that aircraft on 3 occasions, 2 of them into the building, 1 of them into the fields. I mean, the other people in the White House were lucky that the plane didn't get there. The White House. Allegiance. Allegiance, understanding. We had to understand government, how they were operating, had to understand taxation in order to keep the economy strong. We had to choose our leaders from mistakes that we made in the past. And getting a person like Roosevelt, when he died, it was Sunday morning again, we were at church. and we got the news that he had passed away. An amazing person. I visited his home in Campbell Island up in Maine, and I met a lot of people up there that knew him personally and was able to get information about his life. He went through quite a life. Again, like I say, dedication, understanding. Where we're going depends on who we get as our leaders.
Clyde, thank you very much for your service to our country, and thank you very much for participating in this project with us.
You're certainly welcome. What you're doing is also great.
Well, thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you've enjoyed this program. It's been both an honor and a pleasure to help these vets tell their story, and the Bonita Springs Historical Society welcomes your comments. I'm Dave Grossi. Thank you.